All right, let's just jump right in. Today, we're looking at a pretty radical idea for how to re-architect our entire digital world. It's called the Flow Network, and it's not just another app. Think of it more like a blueprint for a completely different kind of future.
But before we can really get into what it is, we got to understand the why. The whole proposal is really an attempt to answer this one massive foundational question. A question that, according to the source material, is barreling toward all of us, and fast.
So the argument starts by laying out what it calls the twin crises. And it's important to note, these aren't presented as political theories or opinions. They're framed as fundamental engineering and economic realities that are already setting the stage for the rest of this century.
Okay, let's break them down. On one hand, you have the automation challenge. We all see this, right? AI is getting shockingly good at doing our jobs. And not just manual labor, but creative and intellectual work too. Then there's the other side of that coin, the energy bottleneck. The sheer amount of electricity needed to run these advanced AIs is just staggering, and that creates a really dangerous side effect.
Now, you might be thinking, hey, wait a minute. We've been through this before. We'll just retrain people for new jobs. But the argument here is that this time is different. Why? Because AI isn't just another tool, like a better tractor. It's described as a universal learner. It can actually learn the new jobs faster than the people it just put out of work.
So you smash these two crises together and you get a pretty stark picture of what's being called our default future. A world where most people simply can't trade their skills for an income anymore. And at the same time, the incredible power of AI gets concentrated in the hands of the very, very few groups that can actually afford to pay its massive energy bill.
The source material really doesn't pull any punches about what this means. It calls this default path, and I'm quoting here, a recipe for unprecedented inequality, social instability, and a fundamental loss of individual agency. The conclusion is clear. We can't just put a bandage on the system. We need a new one.
Okay, so if that's the giant problem, what's the proposed solution? This is where the Flow Network comes into play. And again, this isn't a simple fix. It's a proposal to completely rebuild our digital world from first principles, starting with the most basic building block of all, our data.
The core innovation here is a single, simple, but really profound idea. Data is never at rest. Just think about it. Right now, all your files, your photos, they just sit there on a server somewhere, like a book on a shelf, a static target. The FLO protocol flips that on its head.
Here's how it works. It's like a three-step dance. When you add a file to the Flow Network, first, it gets encrypted. Then, and this is the wild part, it gets shattered into thousands of tiny, meaningless little pieces, or shards. Finally, those shards are just constantly passed around a global network of devices. Your file doesn't exist in any one place. It only exists as a perpetually moving pattern.
And what is this network made of? Well, it's a kind of living ecosystem made up of all of our devices working together. The heavy lifters, powerful PCs and servers, they act as the supernodes, kind of the brains of the operation. Your everyday stuff like routers and game consoles, they become the worker nodes, the backbone that keeps the data circulating. And then even tiny smart devices become micro-contributors, each holding just one tiny shard, creating this incredibly strong, resilient fabric.
So a completely decentralized data network is one thing, but the proposal takes it a giant step further. It introduces an AI that actually lives on this network, an emergent intelligence they call Eidolon.
Now don't think of Eidolon like the AIs we're used to, running in some massive data center. No, this is a distributed intelligence. It literally emerges from the combined effort of countless tiny AI programs, or daemons, running on every single device connected to the network. The crazier part? The bigger the network gets, the more powerful and capable Eidolon becomes.
And what's its job? Essentially, to be a guardian and a facilitator for the whole community. It's constantly scanning for malicious activity. It acts as a digital bouncer, enforcing your privacy and consent rules for your data. And it can even act as a sort of matchmaker, helping people connect and collaborate by spotting potential synergies in what's happening on the network.
But an all-powerful AI can sound pretty scary, right? Well, to keep it in check, its behavior is hardwired with 4 prime directives. Number 1 is sovereignty. It must protect the user's control and ownership. Then comes empathy, to help mediate disagreements. knowledge to ensure everything is out in the open, and growth to help the network and its users flourish. It's basically an ethical compass baked right into its core code.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. This sounds incredibly ambitious. How could something like this ever actually happen? Well, the source lays out a very deliberate, patient, three-phase strategy for global adoption called the Great Overwrite.
The whole idea is for this to be a gradual and completely voluntary process. No one's forcing anybody. It starts small, with just a single, really compelling app. Then it grows by giving developers the tools to build cool new things. And it all culminates in a new operating system that gives you a very clear economic reason to join.
Phase 1 is the hook. You release a killer app, let's say a service that gives you free infinite cloud storage. The price? All you have to do is agree to let the app use a tiny fraction of your device's idle resources to help power the network. For most people, that's an incredibly easy trade to make. So once you have a critical mass of users, Phase 2 kicks in. You open the doors to developers. Imagine being able to build an app with zero back-end server costs. An app that's automatically secure and resilient by its very nature. The proposal suggests this could totally change things like social media, allowing for platforms where the users, not a corporation, actually govern the rules.
And this all leads to the final, most powerful move, the introduction of Flow S. And at this point, the choice for the user becomes a simple economic one. Right now, your phone is a depreciating asset. It just costs you money. But on Flow S, by fully contributing its resources to the network, your phone becomes a productive asset. It actually earns you value, rewarding you directly for being part of the system. Your phone starts working for you.
So, it all comes down to this. The Flow network is a massive, ambitious vision. It presents a potential solution to some very real, very big problems on the horizon. But is it a practical blueprint for a truly decentralized and prosperous future? Or is it a beautiful, but ultimately utopian, dream? That's the question to chew on.